She said, I know what you're going to be when you grow up. And I said, what's that? She said, you're going to be a chartered accountant. I said, really? What do they do? She said, I haven't got a clue. But the man I work for told me today that he's never seen a poor one.
Okay guys, welcome to Box Talk. This is a bit of a special one, this. We're at the Matchroom headquarters and look who we've got. The big man himself, Barry Hearn. Barry, thanks for taking the time to talk to us this morning.
Pleasure.
I said on Twitter I was going to do this interview a couple of weeks back and not one bad word at all. In a world where, let's be honest, promoters get a bit of slack, promoters get a bit of stick, how is it that not just yourself but Matchroom as a company have been able to almost stay away from that?
Listen, no one's impervious to criticism, you know, this is a funny game, and I think the trouble with us is we're a bit boring, you know. We pay people on time, we pay them the right amount of money. As a company, we're not just boxing promoters as well, this is another thing, you know, we have so many other strings to our bow. So, you know, I think the early 90s was a bit of a problem, early doors, but since then, for 20 years, we've grown as a company.
Yeah.
So we don't need to have aggravation. Actually, aggravation, disputes, things like that just take time. They're very counterproductive. I'd rather look sort of forward and look beyond. So yeah, we're just dull. We're dull. We pride ourselves on our integrity, and we're pleased that we don't get criticism. But you know, you can't please everybody all the time. But we've done okay. I'm quite happy with it. Yeah, I think our reputation is good.
You look at the boxing promotional. You look at the promotional world, but mainly boxing. And a lot of promoters have said it's almost like that dark hole, plunging money into it. How does a trained accountant want to even try and get into that field?
I started off the same as everybody else as a fight fan, you know. I mean, I couldn't fight. I like fighters. I like the excitement it generates, and I like the business of boxing, you know. But I do bring with it a numbers attitude because I don't see any business to be sustainable or to actually grow, maybe to make a contribution to the general benefit of the sport. I think it has to be run on a sound business platform. Yeah. Because otherwise, where's it going to go? Yeah. Lots of people want to get involved in boxing because it's, you know, it's quite a sexy business. It's, you know, tough guys, and they see all the glamour. Yeah. They don't see the work that goes behind it, the infrastructures, and that's what we have to do. But I do think, you know, it's to me when I hear, especially my son being described as a numbers man, I think that's the greatest compliment you can pay anyone, because it means, do you know what, you're going to get paid. Yeah, I agree. You know, there's nothing to do with, there's nothing wrong with running a good business. Yeah.
You look at boxing, obviously, what would you say are the biggest changes from when you started to where
there's no question. The biggest change is how the athlete has become the star. You know, when I started, not being funny, William Wilberforce hadn't come into play. Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, that's the man that abolished slavery. Boxing business was the slave trade. We were dealing in meat. You know, you want to fight for me? Okay, I want 102 options on you.
Was it really that bad?
Oh man, you know, there was a business of trading in options. It's almost trading in humanity. Yeah. You know, I'll swap you a third of this fighter for half of that fighter. Jeez. I mean, there's... And the boxers, especially down the pecking order, had no idea what they were getting paid. Most of the time, they had no idea they were fighting. And at the same time, you have to commend their bravery, because they were like, they were tough guys. Yeah. And you know, they would just fight anyone. They were trying to put meat on the table for their family.
Social media played an impact in that as well. Like, boxers have now created their own personas and almost promoting themselves as well on social media. Has that helped?
I think social media has been the biggest change in the actual promotion of professional sport, not just boxing. It reaches a target audience instantly. You don't waste your time trying to talk to people that are not interested in your sport because they don't follow you on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. In our industry, the boxing industry, because of the number of characters in it as well, and because of the amount of time you get, you know, if you're not training 24 hours a day, there is a great opportunity to spread the gospel, to spread your own persona to a wider audience. In fact, the boxers, through social media, is actually doing some of the promoter's job. Yeah. He's making himself famous. Yeah. And you know, I watch so many of these young kids. I'm watching Isaac Chamberlain at the moment, who's tweeting all the time. Good. You know, and it's great. Yeah. Because people say, who is this kid? And you know, the next thing is they say, I'll go and buy a ticket and watch it.
It's true. I look at Ahara Davis all the time.
Ahara Davis as well, you know, the man who suddenly started smiling.
Yeah,
You know,
that's very good.
but it's also, let's watch him on TV.
Yeah.
So it spreads the game into areas that perhaps weren't normally watched.
Let's go back a bit. Third promotion ever, Frank Bruno.
Yeah.
Tottenham, was it? It was the Tottenham.
Tottenham outdoors, yeah.
No fear?
Yeah, oh, just excitement. I think excitement gets round the fear. It's a bit like, say, the boxers. Do they get frightened when they go in the ring? The adrenaline's pumping. You don't get frightened. You know, you're taking on. That was for me, you know, a dream. It was a fight I wanted to see as a fan.
Yeah.
It was a fight I thought that could make a load of money. It was a fight that really got into the establishment and upset everybody, which is also very good because I quite like that. It was a fight that brought in ITV as opposed to BBC. It was so many firsts, and it was a fight where I started to learn the business. I didn't know the business.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really knew it until perhaps a couple of years after Bruno Bruckner. But it was a fight that got me hooked because, you know, that type of excitement is addictive.
What was it like? I've always wondered, what was it like working around Prince Nassim Hamed?
Well, Nas was a larger than life personality. He had these very strong family connections and commitments, and I think that was good. I mean, they put a little wall around themselves as a family, but they came out of boxing well, which is, you know, whichever way you go down that route, this game, people have to understand, is dangerous. It's a short career, and it will leave you scarred in some way or the other.
Yeah.
To what extent or the other depends on how you fight and how long your career is. So therefore, the responsibility on everybody, but particularly on the boxers, is to make sure they leave the sport with some memories and hopefully some assets, i.e. cash.
Yeah.
Nas did a good job on that. His family controlled everything, and Nas left the sport a very wealthy man, and so he should do. But he was difficult in as far as his ego was larger than this house. His confidence level was sensationally high. Almost, I like fighters to be confident. I think they've always got to be confident, but probably he was overconfident towards the end.
Yeah.
He believed in his own hype.
Yeah.
Which is why I always feel he took the Barrera fight much too easy.
Yes.
And paid the price because Barrera was a world-class fighter, and you can't just knock everybody over.
You look at him and think, it's silly to say because he won so many titles, he'd sold out so many arenas. You ever look at him and think, what could have been with him?
Well, it's always difficult, you know. You look at it in any life, can't you? What could have been with that dustman? What could have been with that postman? You know? What could have been with that brain surgeon?
Yeah.
In the end, it's so frustrating. I tend to look at what was, not what could have been, because speculation in that is so open to controversy. And we've got no way of finding out if we're right or wrong. So, no, not really. I look at Nas and say, wow, well, you know, pound for pound, I think one of the heaviest punches has ever been, you know. The boy could really bang for a featherweight. And he was like a cold spring, and he had so much, you know. But the whole of boxing is littered with people that have never achieved the heights they should have achieved for what reason or the other. So in a way, what you have to do is just accept what God gave you and just live with it, you know. And in Naz's case, he was a massive asset to boxing.
Let's talk about two other massive assets to boxing. Ben Eubank. You were right involved in it.
Yeah. I mean, I had both of them really. I mean, on and off with Ben, and right through Eubank's career and until the last couple. They were both great fighters, and they're both so different. Nigel Benn was a warrior who just punched his way out of trouble. But he would at one stage come into your office, one day he'd want to take your head off. The next minute he'd be in tears and he'd want your arm round him. You know, he was a strange, complicated guy. But a great fighter. Great fighter. Eubank, one of the greatest counter punches I've ever seen. An enigma of a man, a strange, controversial, eccentric character that actually boxed in quite a boring style.
When you look at it,
I mean, he was dull. He didn't really box going forward. I mean, he could punch when he had to. He didn't want to do an inch more than he needed to. Whereas, you know, Ben had no control over that. Ben would just have a tear up with you. everything was calculated with Christopher Livingston Eubank, but he was a character, and they both sold arenas, and it was probably the golden days, the golden age of boxing at that level. You know, you'd have to go back before to, you know, perhaps Stracy, Maurice Hope, Alan Minter days.
Yeah.
But in many ways, I think Ben Eubank was bigger.
Yeah.
And I think that's the age that people look to try and replicate now. Both different characters, both obviously strange people, because normal guys don't box.
Yeah.
Both fascinating characters. And both turned out now, Nigel to be in particular has just changed and is absolutely lovely in every aspect of a human being. Eubank will still always drive you crazy, but you can't help but love him as well, because he's a one-off.
Yeah. You always saw Chris Eubank's son running around here, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Did you ever think he was going to come or become a boxer?
Well, you never know with Eubank. As a father, he was always very disciplinarian, which is actually quite good for, you know, the early stages of boxing development. Do they follow in Dad's footsteps? It's usually very difficult, because I've never known a good fighter come from a middle class or upper class financial background. Yeah. It's tough to pay that price when you don't need to. You know, there's usually a reason for boxing. But young Eubank is coming on really well. You know, that was a big win for him Saturday night in a tough fight. A fight I'm surprised he took, so all credit to him. I'm still not convinced that he's punching as hard as he can punch. I think there's work to be done on that. But the boy looks as if he's got something.
He does.
So we will watch him with great interest.
I've always been asked on Twitter, loads of questions actually from fans, where did the idea of Prizefighter come from?
It came from, there's never been a new idea in anything. You know, you copy other people and then just don't mention them, you know. There was a heavyweight competition, I think it was on a steam boat in Missouri many years ago.
Wow.
Which I remember thinking, what a good idea. And it wasn't exactly the same as Prizefighter, but the principle was getting it all done in one night.
Yeah.
Which I quite like. And typical of the Americans, they don't like things that run for weeks and weeks and weeks. They want it bang. So we're just sitting there down one day and said, we were going to do it years before it started. I was going to call it Last Man Standing. And then Bruce Willis brought out a bloody film called Last Man Standing. I thought, well, that's cocked that right up. So we dropped it, and then we went back because, again, we were trying to do something to bring in people into the sport that hadn't been there before. So we needed a new idea. And Prizefighter achieved some of that. I wasn't going to say it was perfect. It was never going to be about the best 8 in the world. Yeah. You know, you get these anoraks, these 8 ain't the best welterweights. Well, of course they're not. They're not supposed to be.
Some have gone on to do very well though, haven't they?
They're supposed to use it as a launch pad, and also they're supposed to have a chance of elevating their career. Clearly you can't get the best 8 heavyweights in the world on any show. The budget would kill it. Yeah. And remember, I'm a numbers man. But this has provided, one, it's provided a platform for kids to go further in their career, and it's been a launch pad for a lot of big names. I think myself, it's probably coming towards the end of it.
Is it? I was going to ask you that.
I think so. I think boxing is in a different place than it was when Prizefighter started. Boxing was absolutely on its last legs. Yeah. You know, people like me were doing shit shows in leisure centres. Frank Maloney, or the old Frank Maloney, God bless him, he was doing even worse shows in leisure centres, and Warren weren't doing much better. Yeah. But the world's changed now, you know, where people want bigger shows, more entertainment. Prizefighter filled a gap and did a job for us. Yeah. And I think we may see the odd 1 or 2, but I don't think we'll ever see, we used to do 6 a year. Yeah. We'll never see those days again, because boxing doesn't need it anymore. There's enough shows to give the platform to new up and coming fighters.
Matchroom has obviously established itself now as definitely the biggest promoter in Europe, 100%. Where do you think you are in terms of globally against the likes of the top ranks, the Golden Boys, Al Haymon?
I think they'd like to be us. Yeah. Because, Al Haymon is going to be dominating boxing in the short term. I don't know how long, but for the next few years. Yeah. I've just come back from New York. Every time I turned into another TV station, he just bought them. Wow. For boxing, you know. So he's now got a commitment to do the numbers of shows and the quality of shows that we've not seen coming out of America before.
Can he deliver that?
he has no choice. So he signed NBC, he's signed the Black Channel, he's signed Spike, he's signed CBS.
Yeah.
Confidentially, not so confidentially, he's about to announce a new deal. He's taking over ESPN boxing.
Wow.
He's got Showtime. You know, you're talking about he's got to do probably 80 major shows a year. Now, there's never been anything like that. I mean, a lot of people have done smaller shows and things, but he's signed 160 fighters now. His plan is very straightforward. He's going to replace all the governing bodies with his own boxing series, and basically he's only going to fight his own fighters. Jeez. But he will have relationships with people that he believes in and he wants to work with. I think one of them will be Matchroom, because we have a lot of champions that are relevant to his champions. Yeah. Is that good for boxing or bad for boxing? In a way, it's good. Any competition is good to the old guard.
Yeah.
HBO will shortly, I'm sure, launch another series of boxing, because they're the only one left that hasn't been Haymonized. So we're in a strong position in terms of Europe, of course. Globally, I would say that we will certainly be second behind Al Haymon in terms of size, I think, as most people would. But we have a lot more going for us than the Golden Boys and the top ranks, because
swallowed over there,
they're going to get swallowed, and they're going to be losing their fighters, because the fighters will look at Haymon and go, in the same way as the fighters look at Fast Car and say, I want to be on Sky, I want to get that type of promotion, I want to get that type of money. Yeah. The same way that fighters of Top Rank and Golden Boy will be saying that in America, because it is an industry driven by money. You know, domestically over here, when you take, you know, Frampton goes on Free for Air TV on Saturday, I was slightly disappointed with the audience. It was just over 2 million peak.
I think they expected more as well.
I expected much more, but it's a start. But there, your long-term value comes or doesn't. This is not about the best fighting the best. This is not about being proud and delivering what the nation wants. You've got to be selfish as a boxer, because it's your life. Yeah. You've got to earn money for you and your kids. Yeah. And to be honest with you, and this is not a good phrase to use, but fuck everyone else.
You've got to be selfish.
Because if you haven't got that selfish approach, if you just do it for others, will those others do something for you later on? No. And the answer is no. They'll walk across the street and ignore you. That's life. We don't.
Matchroom stable, it's a massive stable. It's a stable of British fighters. When you look at the likes of Gennady Golovkin, Sergei Kovalev, European fighters have almost crossed over us and gone to America. Are we not trying to look at those type of fighters or trying to aim for those?
I think we've always been traditionally led by TV stations that are not interested in overseas fighters. You know, I mean, the Golovkins, what a great fighter he is.
He's a frightening.
He's scary. Pound for pound, one of the great fighters. Yeah. But you know, they are out there, and they do miss us. They sort of pass over on their way, simply because we've never done anything. It's not about, this is the other thing, that it's not about how good you are.
It's not, is it?
It's about how famous you are.
Yeah.
You know, and people go, you know, Errol Graham, one of the great middleweights. No one wanted a boxing. Yeah. Because he was too good. You know, I saw Golovkin in America when he fought Prox, one of my Polish kids. And he said, I'm looking forward to coming to England for you, Mr. Hearn. He's a very nice guy. I said, you'll never fight anyone like that. He said, why? I said, I think we both know. But, you know, who knows? There is a chance that Golovkin might go in with Carl Froch. You never know. That would be one showpiece.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Unbelievable. So you can never say never, but for the most part, you know, people always say, what a lovely left jab if they know boxing. What a lovely... Do you know what? 90% of fight fans, 95% of fight fans want to see a tear up, want to see an exciting fight.
Yeah, all the time.
They don't necessarily want to say what a beautiful left jab, because after a while it gets boring.
Looking at your fighters, Carl Froch might retire, might not, hopefully he doesn't. Who's the next big one? Anthony Joshua, Kell Brook?
I think Kell Brook is already the next big one. You know, he's 1 or 2 fights away from superstardom. Yeah. I think this fight on the 28th of March against Idandy, you know, the Romanian Canadian kid, is a good fight. But what comes on after that?
Is it?
You know, and I think he's good enough scarily good enough to be pitched in against any welterweight in the world. I mean, we'd love to see Amir Khan and him because it's a big fight, and again, it makes them both more money than they've ever seen.
Yeah.
But you know, pride and ego comes in. You know, but you know, I keep saying to these guys, you can't eat pride, you can't eat ego, you can't. You know, you've got to get the cash. You've got to have assets behind you. This is a tough old game. At any time this game is over, and it's not like being a golfer, a dart player, a snooker player. There isn't another tournament necessarily next week.
Yeah.
Or a football player. You can have a terrible game of football at the biggest stadium in the world, but you know what? You're playing the week after. Boxing, that can finish your career in one night. So you've got to think like that. But there's a lot of good fighters out there. The stable that we've got at the moment is as strong a stable as I've ever seen, and it's not to say it won't be strengthened still more. I think it's the envy of every other promoter, certainly in Europe, and I think fighters want to be in that stable because success breeds success.
Yeah.
So Froch, I think, will fight again. I think he's got one. I think he might even have 2 fights before he goes.
So.
But one thing's for sure, coming up to 38, he ain't going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And he's made enough money and he's kept his money. There's a huge tick in the box for Carl Froch.
Yeah.
Well done. That's what a career should be like.
Yeah.
And don't all these people now say, oh, doesn't he want to go and fight, you know, Andre Ward, Golovkin? You say, well, listen, you sit in his shoes. What would you, you know, could you fight Bernard Hopkins, which is a big fight? And I'll say an easier fight than Golovkin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But you know what? You also earn 2 or 3 times more money fighting Bernard Hopkins. Now, which one are you going for? You're going for the pride of being the toughest guy on the street, or you're going for a business? He goes for the business. Of course, that's common sense. Kell Brook is getting there. He's going to be massive. I think Scott Quigg beats Carl Frampton.
Do you?
And I've always thought that. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I'll put my hand up and say I'm wrong. Because they're both lovely boys and they're both great fighters.
Yeah.
But neither of them are earning the type of money they should be earning.
Do you look at Carl Frampton as the one that might have got away?
Yeah, to an extent, you know. But it was okay because there wasn't anything behind doors. It was a front to front. McGuigan wanted to look after Frampton.
Yeah.
We thought McGuigan should be his manager and not his manager and promoter.
Yeah.
We had a disagreement and we parted company.
Yeah.
It's not personal. In fact, it's actually made it more fun. Frampton's building into a big domestic
now
fight.
it is, yeah, it really is.
And we'll have to wait and see. I wonder if everyone really wants it. Now, I think I'm right that Quigg wins. So I'm going to take that fight at any price because I want to see. McGuigan and Frampton have said they'll fight Quigg. So Eddie will have meets with them this week.
Nice.
Now, is there any obstacle? There isn't an obstacle that can come from our way.
Yeah.
You know, we're like bending backwards. So, because we believe we're going to win.
Could TV be a problem?
No. Well, I mean, well, it can be a problem. Our job, Matchroom's job and McGuigan's job, is to represent our fighter and to earn him the most amount of money.
Very true.
End of story.
Yeah.
Very straightforward. So all we say is, right, firstly, the venue.
Yeah.
Which venue brings the most money? We got the MEN, you got outdoors in Belfast. Well, you know what? Outdoors in Belfast, if we do in September, we get 40,000 people. I think Belfast makes more money than the MEN, right? We're all on the side of making money. That's where we'll go.
Yeah.
No dispute. Scott, you've got to go to Belfast. Scott says, okay.
He was there the other day, so he had to go.
He says, I'm happy to go anywhere because I believe I'll win the fight. Then we look at TV. We say, okay, well, it's pay-per-view on Sky.
Yeah, definitely.
Or it's ITV. ITV can't get remotely close to Sky pay-per-view.
Not possible.
So, okay, if we're really, it's not about futures and let's have a relationship with ITV. It's about now. It's about one fight.
Yeah.
And ITV would understand that because they're big players and I work with them all the time anyway, with the darts and snooze, they're my friends.
Yeah.
So they tell me everything. So, it looks like pay-per-view. Now, okay, so now that's where the most money is. Last thing is the split. Well, look, boys, it takes 2 to fight.
That's where the problems are going to come, isn't it?
Well, I don't think you should do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just say, look, you're both champions, you're both undefeated. It's the first fight in British history where two United Kingdom fighters, both undefeated, both world champions meet.
Yeah.
It has never happened before, so it's totally unique. It's 50-50. What are we talking about here? It's got to be. It's got to be 50-50. And if you're worried about it, or you think you're so confident, we go 60-40 to winners. Fortunes.
Yeah.
This is a fight where, if it goes well, as well as I would expect, and I'm usually quite conservative, I'm seeing these guys possibly making a couple of £1 million each for the night.
It's big money. That is huge money.
That's what we're talking about. It's life-changing money, not the traditionalist anorak. Oh, it's so good to be on free to air for the boxing, for the good of the sport, for the beauty of boxing. Listen, get it in the face a few times, you little punk, sitting there watching TV in the safety of your pyjamas. You know what I mean? Let's get in the real world. These kids have come up the hard way, both of them. They deserve a big day. And, got to tell you this, for the loser, there's still a load of big fights out there.
Yeah.
And for the winner, there's massive fights out there. Because the winner's established himself as a pay-per-view fighter going forward.
Yeah.
If it's a classic, which it may well be, we'll do it again.
Why not?
And instead we said, okay, the people of Belfast had the first one, people of Manchester had the second one. But we won't switch the TV because the pay-per-view is addictive. The pay-per-view is, to a fighter, nirvana. He found his heaven.
What do you, and we get asked this loads of times, we struggle to answer it sometimes on our show, of all the new belts in boxing.
I don't really care about belts anymore. I mean, it's always nice to say you're a world champion, but there are so many of those anymore. I mean, in many ways, one of Al Haymon's plans for boxing with his professional boxing series is to replace belts.
Wow.
Just by saying pound for pound fighters are the best. To go back to the days when there was just one champion at every weight. But having said that, you have to look a little bit outside the box. In those days, that wasn't heaven. Fighters got frozen out because they weren't with the right promoters or the right TV companies. TV companies lost interest in boxing because they couldn't get world champion fights they wanted. The creation of additional belts actually serviced fighters more than it took away from boxing. So I just think we have to accept that this is how boxing is.
Yeah.
There's lots of belts, and if you're a kid, I've seen tears of happiness in kids' faces for winning the Southern area. That was as far as they were going to go.
Yeah.
But that belt will be with them for the rest of their life because they won something in the ring, which sets them apart from normal men.
Very true.
So I don't criticise the belts, I just don't take them very seriously. I think they're a nice ornament around and a great fight.
Yeah. Last couple of questions, Barry, and thanks for your time. I saw an interview with you and Ronnie O'Sullivan on Eurosport, I think it was. And I think you openly said to him you could do more to promote the sport. Someone who sees talent. Is there anyone in boxing under Matchroom Stable that you think's like that? So much talent, just doesn't do enough to promote himself.
It's difficult to say because I wouldn't want to criticise my own boxers, would I? I think all fighters can learn from some, especially on the social media. I think it is a job of sensible self-promotion. I think most Matchroom boys have got the sort of gist of it, as a lot of fighters have, to be fair. I look around at some of the youngsters, Charlie Edwards who turned pro, Isaac Chamberlain I mentioned before. They've been very active on it, but some of the fighters that get chances, Sam Eggington, who's come out of nowhere, but all of a sudden,
nowhere.
Well, he came through Prizefighter for us, really. He looks a real prospect. He looks like the welterweight version of Carl Froch.
Yeah. He does, doesn't he?
He's got that same sort of horrible. It must be a nightmare to fight people like that because they don't go away. You've got to actually kill them, figuratively speaking. No, I think most of the boys do their own. The idea of. I wonder what Eubank would have been like in the age of social media, because Eubank's attitude was, I don't sell tickets, that's the promoter's job.
Would never have done it.
But on self-promotion, he was a different class.
Yeah.
And I think he would have had a massive Twitter following. But no, I think on average, I think they all learn from each other and they see people's career progress at a rate, and there's no doubt about it. The one that brings it home to me, perhaps Josh Warrington.
Yeah.
The biggest ticket seller, personal ticket seller out there. The kid can also fight, and he's smart enough to know that this is his chance, this is his time. He's going to be a big star, and he's helping making himself a big star. Instead of saying, I think it is a partnership between promoter and boxer. They've got to be on the same wavelength of how they're going to advance their career. Anthony Joshua certainly is. Yeah. Josh Warrington certainly is. They realise that they've got to work in harmony, and they're both part of the plan.
Eddie Hearn said after the George Groves Froch 2 fight at Wembley that he's looking for that next big one again. Is Kell Brook, Amir Khan that one at Wembley?
Yeah, it could be. I think there's a few divisions out there. When people talk about Wembley, look, that was a total fluke, if you like. I mean, where did that fight come from? 80,000 people. George Groves will tell you it was because of me. I promoted the show. I would tell George Groves, bollocks. Carl Froch will say, I'm a legend, I'm the toughest guy on the street. I say, yeah, Carl, you are, but you ain't 80,000. That shows a one-off mixture of mainly controversy of the first one. Certainly the public outcry for the rematch, and thirdly, the fact that both fighters helped promote the show properly.
It was together.
It was a togetherness thing, and they both benefited, earned millions of pounds each. Great stuff for boxing. However, it doesn't necessarily mean there's another one down the corner. In my 30 years, I think I've done 4 outdoor fights. So that would suggest that they're not easy. Everybody left Wembley, apart from, but it would be wrong to say apart from George Groves. But even George. Everyone left Wembley with a smile on their face saying, what a great night. That was fabulous for boxing. So yes, we're in our fast lane, we can do other fights. Brook Khan is a Wembley outdoor fight. Froch versus Golovkin is
You're getting me excited now. You said that name twice. You're getting me excited.
Because it could happen.
Yeah.
Froch Golovkin could be a Wembley fight. Froch against Degale in a year's time could be a Wembley fight. Fury against Joshua could be a Wembley fight. So there's not that many, but there's a lot more than I would normally think. There's 4 or 5 potential Wembley fights. If you get 2 of them,
you've done well.
And I've done 4 over 30 years, then you've done really well.
Yeah. Last question. I think last year you got inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. How'd that feel?
Yeah, it was good.
You recognised for your services.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. I just think they do it because you're getting old. Yeah. They think you might die and they'll feel guilty if they haven't given you something before you go. I didn't think much of it at the time when they first, it was just funny, I'm going to be inducted, me. As it got closer and closer, I started thinking, this is actually quite good.
Yeah.
Oscar De La Hoya's with me, Felix Trinidad, Joe Calzaghe. I mean, these are heroes as well. And actually, the whole thing was surreally, unbelievably great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my moment. I also enjoyed it when Fast Car said, when the letter arrived with the invitation to be inducted to the International Boxing Hall of Fame, Eddie's first thought was, do you really think they got the name on the envelope right?
Cheeky.
And I thought that's cool. That's why he's going to be a great promoter.
Yeah, he's doing well, isn't he? He really is doing well.
He's coming on well. He's been brought up in the. He's been brought up in the environment. He's seen fighters. He's seen Jimmy Mack nearly get killed in the ring, and he was very close with Jimmy Mack.
Yeah.
And he's seen Herbie Hyde come up and do his thing. He's seen Eubank right from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's been in the boxing's been in his DNA. Now I didn't know, can you transfer that to being a great operator? And he's surpassed. Unfortunately, he probably watched this, so I don't want to be too nice to him. I like to keep him on his toes. He's surpassed my wildest dreams. He's a better promoter than me.
Really?
By far. I thought I was 24 hours a day. This kid's 25.
Fast car.
He can still do 8 rounds. He can still run marathons. He's a much better shot than I've got. But he's got the belief and the passion, and he sees the exploitation and how we can maximise earnings. And at the end of the day, he will only be judged by how much money his fighters have made.
Yeah.
He won't let them down. He'll take a bullet for his kids, and that's how you've got to be.
All right, and that's a good note to end with. That's Box Talk. That is a special. See, you guys, look, we tried to give you the best, and I think that was one of the best, wasn't it, so far? Barry, thanks for talking to Box Talk.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
Thank you.